Okay, we're live. Alive and well. All right, good to vach. This is the final leg, the final week for Pesach Zman Cheresinu, the time of our freedom. And what I'd like to do tonight is to go through some of the things of the Haggadah, so we can, when we make our own Pesach Seder, we can have an enhanced experience. But just a few things before we get to the Haggadah itself. Of course, there's all the preparations that are necessary to do, a lot of cleaning, a lot of, hard work. And that hard work, sometimes it's such, you're so exhausted, you come to the Seder, boy, do you need a second wind. And somehow it always seems to work. It always seems to work. So Thursday night will be the search for the Hummus, and a beautiful custom of going around and searching out for the chametz with a feather, with a wooden spoon, with a beeswax candle. And when I had little kids, doing it with them, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful, we would hum this tune and go marching through the house and seeking out the 10 pieces that my wife would put. Be very careful. Make sure if you put out 10 pieces that you know where they are. Or at least one person should know where they are, because not a good thing if you end up with only 9. Now, either you got a mouse in the house or you got the chametz in the house. And I don't know which one's worse. But yeah, so make sure you know. Don't wrap up the as the custom is to put 10 pieces of bread out and to search for the chametz. Do not wrap it in silver foil, because afterwards, the next day when you burn it, it won't burn because it's wrapped in silver foil. So wrap it in paper towel, and that way it'll burn the following day. Because after you find it, you have to call chamira, what we say, and then the following day we have to burn the chametz. Burning the chametz is usually somewhere around by 11 o'clock or 11:30, somewhere around that time. All the chametz has to be burnt. And of course, before that, whatever chametz you have, leavened bread, leavened products, they have to be sold. Sold means you can keep it in your property, but it doesn't belong to you. So the person was sold to comes on Pesach and wants your Cheerios. Well, you're gonna have to pay a good price, but it's not yours, even though it's on your property. After Pesach, it comes back and it is yours. So just make sure that a Jew is not allowed to own chametz on the holiday. And there's forms that, you can do that on Chabad.org, or your local Chabad rabbi can help you with that. So those are some of the things that are very important that we make sure that we have under our belt. Also, that the products that we have, of course, kosher Pesach, and the proper, not just cleaning, but there's certain things you need to kosher in order to make it, kosher Pesach. So a lot you can get on Chabad.org, and a lot we can learn from there. Okay. Any questions on that? So let's go. I'm going to share the screen. There we go. Here's the Haggadah in English. So Kaddish, the first cup of wine is poured and Kiddush is recited. So since it's going to be Friday night, so it's not only a Yom Tov, but it's also Shabbos. So we have to do the Kiddush that is for Shabbos and for Yom Tov. So in the Haggadah, you will have that. When this is the first of the 4 cups of wine, there's a mitzvah of drinking 4 cups of wine. If you can't manage all 4 cups, you have to drink at least a full mouthful each time, minimally that. And also you need to recline. You need to recline on your left side. So you got to lean, a lot of leaning that night. To recline, and it might be a little clumsy to drink your wine while you're reclining. It's okay. If it spills and you get your, something, get a stain, the stain will come out. But the mitzvah, if you're not reclined, you don't fulfill. You need to be reclined. Why do we need to be reclined? Because the things that we do Seder night have to express freedom. And back in the day, the kings of yore, they would recline on their left side as an expression of freedom. So that's what we do. And you might think, well, that's a nice, nice, cute idea and so on. Well, if you didn't recline and you drank your wine like this regularly, you don't fulfill that part of the mitzvah. And guess what? I'm going to do it again. So do it the first time. You won't have to do it a second time. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of wine. And, you want to make sure that you don't overdo it. Okay. So that's the first thing. Kaddish. Come home from shul. First thing is sanctifying the day. Kaddish comes through to sanctify the day. How do we do that? We do that with the wine, right? And here it is in English. And as we said over here, drink the cup of wine while seated on the left side, reclining on the left side as a sign of freedom. Then we come to urchatz. It's washing the hands for vegetables. Ritually washing your hands without reciting a blessing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 with what we do regularly for the Netilas Yadayim, those special cups. If you have that, if not, then just something that at least holds, that should hold, 5, 6 ounces or whatever. And you wash your hands. You don't make a blessing, because what are you going to do? Then you're going to come to karpas. Karpas is you're going to take a small piece. Our custom is that we take onion, and we take the onion, and then we dip it into salt water, and we make the blessing Brei Ha'adama. And we keep in mind also the bitter herbs that we're going to have later of the maror and the korach that we eat later on, because we're making a bracha Brei Ha'adama, blessing of the fruit of the earth. And being that, so that's what we do. We do with some people. You do it with potato. Other people do it besides potato. Yeah, the basic things are onion or potato, and we dip it in salt water. So the onion is like dipping in salt water. It's like the tears of the Jewish people in Egypt, and that's what that represents. Why are we doing all of this? Why are we washing our hands and dipping a vegetable into salt water? Anybody know why we do this? So the reason is that you should ask, Manishtana, what is different this night from all other nights? Pesach night, is about having everybody engaged and involved. So things are done differently. Where do you come to someone, to their home, and they serve you an onion with some salt water to dip it in and make a blessing over that, right? Pretty wild, pretty out there. You know why? So you should be curious. In particular, the child in you and the child literally that you have at the table should be curious. And because of that, they asked the Manishtana, why is this night all different than all other nights, as we'll get to soon. So since the Haggadah comes from the word to tell over something that was asked. There are four, as we'll see later, four sons in the Torah. The Torah says, speak to those four sons. And, they ask, respond to them. So the evening is about question and answer. So be full of questions. Now, hopefully you'll get some answers. So tonight we're doing part of that. So that's the important thing. And it's important, if you have children at the table, that you listen to their questions. You listen to them. It's about the children and making them feel an integral part, because they are an integral part. And again, that's the Haggadah. What it's based on is, as the Torah tells us, you should tell to your child. And the Torah speaks about four different children, as we will get to, right? Now, why are you washing your hands and dipping into, taking food and dipping into salt water? For those that learn Rambam, so we learn that food can become impure, right? There's a concept of impurity with food. And therefore you need to wash your hands like we do in the morning when you wash Natilis Adayim, because your soul is restored within your body, and you have your soul restored. You still have some impurities in your hand from sleeping at night, and you wash your hands. So likewise, there's an impurity in the hands, and therefore we wash the hands with the cup, right? And then we dip, because now we're dipping into water. We're dipping food into water. The water can create something that makes it, as we learned in Rambam, makes it accessible, or makes it open to becoming impure. Now, these laws don't really, we don't live with those laws today, because we don't have the holy temple that you need to be pure. You need to have pure food when you're going to the holy temple and eating there, since we don't have that now. But that's this idea of why you would wash your hands. So generally during the year, you don't really do that. Or, in a mass manner, everybody gets up from the table, washes their hands, and then dips into, potato or an onion into salt water. Unusual activity. Again, to perk everybody's attention, Ma'anishtana, what is different about this time? Now, going back, so Kadesh Urchatz. Urchatz means and wash. So it's there's 15 steps to the whole Haggadah. I don't know, we'll get through all of that. 15 steps, and each one is a step on its own. But Kadesh, it says Kadesh, sanctifying the day with the Kiddush. Then Urchatz, and wash. So there's a vav there, which means and. It's the only one, Kadesh, Urchatz, Karpas, Yachatz. There's no other vav that it is a conjunction that is connecting to the previous. Why is that? Because washing your hands is the idea of cleansing, which comes from the idea of chachma. The chachma brings a refinement, because chachma is is the source of intelligence, but it's beyond intelligence. The power of what? It is beyond intelligence, but yet the source of intelligence. And then the potato or the onion that's dipped is that when you take the source of intelligence of Chachma and then you bring it together with Bina to understand, that you bring it into an understanding, a personal understanding that you can have. So wherever there's wisdom, there has to be Bina. Wherever there's Bina, there has to be Chachma. So the two come together on a Kabbalistic level. Okay. So we mentioned that the salt water is like the tears of the Jewish people, the pain and the suffering that they went through. Why are we mentioning this? Why is this so important to be a part of the evening? Just remember that. Why are we having bitter herbs? To remember the bitter times. Just remember that. We'll get there. Okay? Let's continue. Okay, that's carpet. Yachatz. We break the middle matzah. So there's 3 matzahs on the Seder plate. We break the middle matzah into 2. The larger one is for the afikomen that will be eaten at the end of the meal. Right? That's set aside. The smaller one is put back between the 2 other matzahs. And this is what we will tell the story on. The broken matzah. Right? The broken matzah. The poor man's bread, as it's called. Lechem oni means poor man's bread because it's only half a bread, right? Not even less than half a bread. So that's a poor man's bread. It doesn't even have a whole loaf. Again, the negativity that we're starting with. And we need to understand why, right? And the larger piece will be for the afikomen. Anybody know what the afikomen represents at the end of the meal? The Paschal lamb offering that was eaten in the times of the Holy Temple. That was the last thing to be eaten at the end of the meal. So, and now that we don't have the Paschal lamb offering, what do we have? Afikomen, matzah, and more matzah. So that's eaten at the end. So just an idea, yachatz means to break. So I've been speaking a lot about being broken. People are broken. And the middle matzah, the story is told on the middle matzah that it's a broken piece of matzah. So there's a brokenness that we're talking about, right? So we have bitter herbs, we have the tears, the water, the salt water representing the tears, all the, these negative ideas. And something we spoke about last week, if you remember in Torah studies, we'll bring it up again briefly now, to bring out this idea. What's the first thing that we say? Then we say Magid, retelling the Passover story. This is the main, now we're getting into the nitty-gritty, telling over the story. But before we tell the story, we make a 1-paragraph synopsis. And this was last week's Torah studies. We spoke about this last week, right? We said, this is the bread of affliction our fathers ate in the land of Egypt. So if you recall from last week, we had a question on this. This is the bread of affliction our fathers ate in the land of Egypt. I thought it was out of Egypt we ate. We're talking about. Why are we talking about the bread that was in Egypt? We left Egypt in a hurry. That's why the dough didn't rise. So why are we talking about in the land of Egypt? Second point is, whoever's hungry, let him come and eat. Whoever is in need, let them come and conduct the Seder of Passover. If you're hungry, why are you inviting people now when you're at the Passover Seder? And why are we talking about people who are hungry? Well, does it help now at the table? Actually, if you mention that people get hungry and the Seder's not going to be over for a couple of hours, not going to eat till later. Whoever's hungry, come and eat. Come and eat, but it's going to be in a couple of hours. But why are we mentioning about people being hungry? That you can't even take care of them. Because if they're hungry, well, invite them before Passover so they'll come to your house. This year we are here, next year in the land of Israel. This year we are slaves, next year we're free people. Again, the negativity of being slaves this year, and next year we're going to be in the land of Israel, meaning with Mashiach. So again, we have a small matzah that we tell the story over. We have bitter herbs. We have salt water of the tears. All of these things that are meant to be visceral, reminder of what we went through, even though tonight is a night of being free. Recline on the left side when you drink your wine, also when you eat your matzah. So we're trying to be, are we free or are we not free? What's the answer, folks? Are we free or not free?
We're still in Galus.
So, but are we free?
What's the definition of free?
Okay, that's my okay. So
we're free to do mitzvah.
Huh?
We're free to do mitzvah and charity.
Okay, good.
And
we start.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
We start every day new in Mizrahi. Every day we woke up, we start new in Egypt, and we don't leave it. We are still there.
Okay.
It's only to
so we're not free. So we're not free.
When we forget it, we are not free. We are only free when we remember.
Okay, good. Anybody else to share something? Vida, Liba. Anybody else? Tim, Celia, Coy, Chanel. Question is, are we free? Are we not free? We're saying that we're slaves. Next year we'll be free. But isn't tonight the night of freedom? Isn't that what we're celebrating? What's going on? So it's all Jewish answers. There's freedom and there's freedom. Right? There is and there isn't. Right? We are not free since we are in exile. So then what are we celebrating tonight? So what do we celebrate? Then explain to me, what are we celebrating Passover night if we're not free, if we're in exile? So what's the point? What's the point? Okay.
To remember, to retell it.
So we're free to tell the story, that we're not free.
No,
we're free to tell the story that we're not free because we're still in exile.
No.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong, but you're not right either. But you got a point. Yes. So Liba, I think, Liba, go ahead, speak. You said something.
I was just saying that I celebrate, or I mean, I've heard Rabbi Majeski, Rabbi Dovich.
Just say you. I want to hear from you. My question, you don't have to repeat anybody else's name. You need to own the answer. What's the answer?
Okay. So from what I've learned, that it was the true start of the Jewish nation.
Okay,
that we should celebrate that.
What does that mean? I'm talking about freedom. So what does that mean? You're right. What everybody said is correct, but is not a bullseye.
We are free to live as Jews. Before we couldn't live our beliefs because we were in Egypt, and now we have the option.
So before we were slaves to others. When we went out of Egypt, we will never be a slave, but to God. We will only be a servant to God. So that is the beginning of true freedom. is that we are servants of Hashem, and that's the only way to be truly free, is in the service of Hashem. In that service, are we truly free? No. Why? Because we're still in exile. We still have a Yetzer Hara that imprisons us, right? We are imprisoned by the body and the animal soul that has its own agenda. Right? We have our own Pharaoh, we have our own Egypt that we are in, that we need to be released from, our own bondage. But the difference is, before going out of Egypt, we didn't have the capacity to do that. Once we went out of Egypt and we got the Torah at Har Sinai, now we have the capacity to redeem ourselves, to free ourselves from ourselves. We are no longer in bondage of others. No, never. Even in the Holocaust, even in the camps, you were free to be a Jew. Okay, maybe you didn't have tefillin to put on, but you had a mouth you could pray. You had a heart that had hope in Hashem. Whatever happened, happened. That's not the point. Were you free to believe in the Holocaust? Yes. Absolutely. So that all began at at going out of Egypt. That now we can be truly be ourselves as Jews. Period. So yes, we're in exile now, but that's all part of the process, that we're going to be totally free. And this is what we say in this phrase over here. And it's what we learned last week. And just so you now, you can tell it over for your Seder more clearly. This is the bread of affliction that our fathers ate in the land of Egypt. In other words, like, yeah, we left Egypt. We're still there. We're in our own Egypt. So this is the bread. They were then in Egypt. They were afflicted. We also have our own affliction. As it was then, it is today. So much so that there are people hungry today. There are people in need. But you know what? That's all part of the process. That we are here and we're making the statement. Why are we making the statement here? Because yes, we're here to take care of the needs of others. We're in that process of helping everybody get out of Egypt, their personal Egypt. This year, we are here. Next year, we're going to be the land of Israel. This year, we're slaves. We're still in exile. But next year, we're going to be truly free people with Mashiach. That will be the final culmination. So, on the one hand, we're free. On the other hand, we're still enslaved. The difference is now we have the capacity to slowly and surely to bring the ultimate freedom. So that's what this first paragraph is bringing out, that the bread of affliction in Egypt, it started in Egypt. We went out from there. It continues still, that we're now in exile, hunger, there's people hungry, people in need. In other words, we're truly not free, even though we went out of exile, but that's only temporary. That's only here now. Next year we'll be in Israel. Now we're slaves. Next year we'll be free. So this is, and this ties in then with why we have now bitter herbs. We have the salt water that represents the tears. That's why we have the bigger matzah and the smaller matzah. The smaller matzah is about the story. The bigger matzah is about the end of the story, the afikomen that we eat at the end, right? Which is at the end of the Seder, at the end of the night. After that, L'shana Haba B'Yushalayim, we're going to be in Jerusalem. You see how everything ties in there? Okay, then we put aside the matzah. Moved aside, second cup is filled. And now the children ask, Man ishtana halayla hazem mikol halaylot. Mikol halaylot. So the Chabad custom is the first we speak about dipping. Others have the custom first about matzah, because it's a biblical law, so that's why they put it first. Chabad custom is to put the dipping, because that's the first thing the child sees is the dipping, right? We did that before. They didn't eat matzah yet. So the dipping first, then comes the matzah, then the maror, and then about the reclining. So, and as I mentioned, that so the Rebbe Rashab explains this mystically. What makes this night different than all other nights? What does night represent? Exile, right? Darkness represents exile. So why is this exile different than all other exiles? The exile they're in now is different than the Egyptian exile, the Babylonian exile, the Persian exile, and this is the final exile, the Edom Roman exile. Why? On all other nights, we don't dip even once. On this night, we dip twice. Dipping is like dipping into a mikvah. So all other exiles, we didn't get a mikvah purifies. We didn't get purified, but not even once. But this exile, this night, we dip twice. What do you mean? We dip the soul, the body and soul will get purified by this exile. On all other nights, all other exiles, we eat chametz and matzah. Chametz representing negativity, right? The Wonder Bread that's full of hot air, and matzah, flat bread, which represents submission, humility, submission. So all other exiles, we came out of it haughty and submission. But this exile will only come out humble, like the matzah flatbread. On all other nights, we eat all kinds of vegetables. I don't remember how he explains this. 1 second. Oh. On all other nights, we eat all kinds of green vegetables. It's about green with envy. It's the idea of envy. But on this night is only mara, bitter. What do you mean? Bitter envy? So all kinds of vegetables means all kinds of envy. In other words, we came out of those exiles, of those challenging times. We came out with all types of different kind of envious things. But in this exile, we will only come out with bitter greens. So the Rebbe Rashab explains that refers to the power of righteous people, that in a very sharp comment that sounds bitter, but as we learn in Tanya, what the bitterness does is help you change your life. Bitter does not mean bad. If you're bitter towards somebody else, that's bad. That's wrong. But if you're bitter towards yourself, as we learned in chapter 27 of Tanya, right? If you're bitter towards yourself, you will change. If you're not bitter, okay, listen, love me as I am. I know I've got my challenges, I've got my issues, I've got things about me. Obviously, you're not bitter. You're accepting. When you don't accept, when you're bitter, again, not towards somebody else, towards yourself. So this night, meaning this exile, we get the power that we can have more bitter greens, not all of types. Again, the green means envy. So we have an envy that there is a bitterness that we can be envious of another when we see how they feel bitter about what they've done and they change themselves. That kind of envy we can have. On all other nights, we sit upright or reclining. On this night, we all recline. What's the difference between reclining and sitting upright? Sitting upright, reclining is about pleasure. That's why the kings of yore, they used to have their beds. You know, you remember those movies, Cleopatra, right? Lying on the bed and having food, just, yeah. That's the way they ate. Why they eat that way? It's a sign of freedom, but it's more of a sign of pleasure. We will come out of this exile with, so pleasure can come from, upright means from, like, you know, from head to the heart to the, you know, and then there's a greater pleasure that comes directly from above. It's called the highest level of pleasure is called reclining, leaning, alluding to this very lofty spiritual pleasure. What is that lofty pleasure? That you delight in God. Today's Tanya, actually. Okay. No, it's today or a couple of days ago, I think. Right? To delight in God. No, it's today. Yeah, we had it today, right? Yeah, you can't delight in God today. When are you going to delight in God? Today, love. Yeah, that was the whole thing we spoke about today, right? What's love? There's only means to an end today, right? That's what we learned. Anybody remember Tanya today? Hello. Anybody home? Anybody remember today's Tanya? What was today's Tanya? That today we can't love as an end in itself. We can love as a means to an end, right? You have
Right.
a love for someone, you do for them, right? You do for them. That's what we spoke about. But ultimately, when Mashiach will come, and the righteous have that today, they have a love of God that is having delight and pleasure in God, not for what God does for them, but for who God is, right? And we will all have that. And that's what it means to recline. Recline means pleasure. The kings of yore were having pleasure, delight. So this exile will bring us to a time that we will be able to delight in God himself. All other nights we sit upright or we recline. But tonight, no, we're reclining. Sign of freedom, but even greater, it's a sign of divine pleasure. That we are ready for that divine pleasure in our lives. Is that clear? Any questions on that? Clear? Who could repeat this to me so I can know that you're going to be able to say it at your Seder? Andrew. Can you repeat? Not on mute. I didn't mean to repeat it on mute. Unmute and repeat. I want to make sure you're going to share this. It's a beautiful thought. It's a beautiful thought. Here's the manishtana, that is the highlight of the evening, right? And yes, we have to have delight in the kids. What a delight when you have kids and they say the manishtana. It's beautiful. But do you know, we all have to say the manishtana because we're all children before Hashem. So we all have to say it. But after we say it, we have to, we can appreciate it now on a deeper level. So again, so Andrew, what does night mean?
What does the first night mean?
What? No. What does it mean with the metaphor of night? Exile, right?
Okay.
Exile was said, right? That's
Yeah.
what Manishta. Now, what is different? This exile from all other exiles, right? The Jewish
Right,
people.
this is the beginning of the redemption, and
Well, no, we went through other exiles. We were in the Egyptian exile.
right, but this is the last exile that begins the redemption.
Right. So what is different? All other nights, when we came out of it, we didn't come out of it cleansed. But this one we will dipping like into a mikvah. We dip twice because the body and soul are going to be cleansed by this exile. All other nights, we came out of it chametz and matzah, meaning all other exiles, we came out of it haughty and humble.
Right.
Both things. This one, we're going to come out of it humble. All other nights, all other exiles, we came out of it having all kind of envy. The green vegetables that are green vegetables is the idea of envy. Here, this night, we have bitter greens that we're even envious of when we see someone who can have a bitterness, that they, through the bitterness towards themselves, that they can change themselves. That's an envy to have, right? That you see someone who changed their life around. They said, enough is enough, right? No more. And they changed their life. So that's an envy to have. All other nights, we have pleasure upright. We sit upright, which is an idea of pleasure, like what's the pleasure? Is a regular pleasure from the mind to the heart, and sometimes we recline. This exile, this night, we're all reclining. Why? Because reclining is about pleasure. It's a sign of freedom, a sign of pleasure, and that we are truly having a pleasure in the divine, delighting in God. Okay? So you have it now? Great. It's going to be a different Seder when you can tell that over. Okay. Let's continue. Those are the four questions. Blessed, now let's go to the four sons. Blessed is the omnipresent, blessed be he. Blessed is he who gave the Torah to his people Israel. Blessed be he. Torah speaks of four children. One is wise, one is wicked, one is simple, and one who does not know how to ask. Echad chacham, echad rasha. So why does it one is wise, one is wicked? Just say a wise, wicked, simple, and one who doesn't know how to ask. Why are you saying one is wise, one is wicked? Like, you have to emphasize that. You know why? What does one represent? Hashem Echad, one God, right? From the Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. So when we're saying one, we're this is like the capital O one, right? Meaning to reference the oneness of God. The oneness of God is found, where? In the wise son. The oneness of God is found in the wicked son, the wicked child. Oneness is in the simple, and one who doesn't know how to ask, the oneness of God is found there. One is wise and one is wicked. Fine, but it doesn't take away from the fact that they all have the oneness of God in them. This is who we're speaking to. Now, the Rebbe introduced that there's a fifth son in our generation. That fifth son is not mentioned here. You know why? Anybody know? There's the fifth child. Who's the fifth child?
Moshiach.
Whoa. Oh my gosh. I don't even know how to answer to that one so good. That is a good one. I don't even know how to answer to that.
I
Yeah,
thought it
What?
was a kid who wasn't there. I thought
The
it was a kid
fifth child. The fifth child is one who doesn't show up to the Seder.
who
Right, exactly. Who are these four children? They are at least sitting at the Seder table. They're at least there. They came and they participate. Okay, one's wise, one is au contraire, wicked. Another one is simple, and one that doesn't even know how to open his mouth and ask a question. He's so oblivious, right? But they're there at least. The fifth child doesn't even show up. They're so uninterested that they don't even show up. So the Rebbe made a plea that there should be no fifth Jewish children, no fifth column, no fifth Jewish child. Anybody who needs a Pesach Seder should come to a Seder. Ooh. Mark down someone who needs a Seder, and you got to follow through on it. Yes. I think I'm talking to myself. Someone called me today about someone seeing, he sees someone interesting on the street, walking his dog, a young guy, and he looks at him. He says hello to him, and he says something because it's a friend of mine, and he's a little Lubavitcher, so he looks Jewish. So he speaks to him in a way that he's like, he's Jewish. And he looks at his arm, he sees tattoos, and what's tattooed? His Jewish name written in Hebrew on his arm. Yeah. So he was kind of like taken aback. That's a pretty oxymoron. Right. So anyways, he needs a place for the Seder, so he called me up to take care of him. Now the funny thing is, his father's coming to my Seder already. Now the son, got to make sure. Pretty interesting. Pretty wild. Pretty wild. Okay. So the whole Hasidic discourse here of the wise son. Wise one, what does he say? What are the testimonies, statutes, and the laws of the Lord your God? Our God has commanded you. You in turn shall instruct in the laws of Passover up to one may not eat any dessert after the Paschal lamb, after the Afikomen, right? The Paschal lamb offering. We're going to leave the wise son for a moment. Anybody know why the wicked son seemingly is the worst of all of them? Is right next to the wise son, like gets second billing. Anybody want to stab a guess at it or say something about that?
He has the highest potential, kind of like.
Excellent. In other words, the wise son has fire in him, passion, and it's directed. Wisdom, using it in a healthy way. The wicked also has a fire, but it kind of destructive. But there's a fire there. The simple and the one who doesn't know to ask, they're without a fire. I like the wicked son. You know why? Because of the fire. It means there's something to attach yourself to. There's something to grab and have a discussion with, have a debate. And maybe that fire could be harnessed and could then be, instead of destructive, could be very beautiful fire that it brings, great produce, great healing. So that's why, yes, they both have a fire. Furthermore, it's a sign that the wise son needs to involve and engage himself with the wicked son, right? I got to engage with this person. I'm next to this person. God brought me next to this wicked person so I can engage with them and inspire them. So the wise son shouldn't say, I'm going to create you know, walls that separate me from others that are not, you know, righteous like I am and good and wise like I am and learned and so on. No, don't create those walls that separate you. You're next to the wicked because you need to know that your fulfillment will come through the wicked, and the wicked will be inspired through you. And that if you don't attach yourself to the one who's au contraire, off the beaten path, you won't have your fulfillment. Is that clear? So let's go to the wicked son. Wicked one, what does he say? What does he say? What is his service to you? He says to you, but not to him. By thus excluding himself from the community has denied that which is fundamental. You therefore blunt his teeth and say to him, it is because of this that the Lord did for me when I left Egypt, for me, but not for you. If you would have been there, you would not have been redeemed. Anybody have any questions on this? Any issues with it? Put on your Chabad hat for a moment. Is this the way Chabad would speak to another Jew? Andrew? Navita? Michael? What's your experience? Is that the way Chabad speaks? No comment. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I mean, you have some rabbis that speak this way.
Normally not.
I would agree with Michael. I actually, the only thing I disagree with you, Michael, I wouldn't say normally not. I say not at all. Right? Not at all. So what does this mean over here? What are we saying? Why are we being so negative to this person? You call him a wicked person. Okay, I mean, you know, so bring him home. Give him some children. Bring with him. Do a mitzvah with him. So the Rebbe explains like this. He says, interestingly, the truth is we're saying something very positive in a negative way, but it's very positive. We're saying, you know, you need to know something. If you would be in Egypt with your attitude that you disassociate yourself from the Jewish people, and what is this service for you? What's this, you know, this Jewish stuff, this mitzvahs? Come on. You know, we're in the modern world. So then you got to tell them, you know, with that kind of attitude in Egypt, you wouldn't have been redeemed. That's in Egypt before we became a nation. Now that we're a nation, so once we are a nation, no Jew will ever be left behind, and no Jew will be able to disassociate themselves. In Egypt, you could disassociate yourself from being Jewish. And as a matter of fact, many people did, and therefore they didn't come out. They died in the 9th plague. So you wouldn't have been redeemed. But now you're Jewish. This is, you know, in Egypt, this would have happened to you. But now you're part of the Jewish people. You will be redeemed, whether you like it or not. Sheikh is going to redeem you too. So we're actually saying something very positive, that you are a part and parcel of the Jewish people. Now we're saying it in a negative way, that if you would have been with that attitude back then, right? Oh, so lucky you're now, because you will be redeemed. Back then you wouldn't have been, but today you would be. We're saying it in a negative because sometimes you need to give a kick in the pants to somebody to tell them to wake up and see how lucky you are, and you know what opportunity you have, how blessed your life is as a Jew. So sometimes, you know, that negativity needs to be expressed in such a way. Yes, Chanel. Go ahead.
Would it be appropriate for a Gentile to remind them of that?
What do you mean? What do you mean to remind? Oh,
Like,
actually, oh, okay.
I have non-observant friends that don't want to observe. What's an appropriate way to tell them, like, you really shouldn't think like that because
Yeah, no. It's actually very good. You're right. As a non-Jew should inspire a Jew to do a mitzvah. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. Absolutely. I mean, how to do it? You know, I don't know if blunting your teeth and doing that necessarily, but yeah. I mean, in a way, he's being shamed here on some level. With that kind of attitude, you wouldn't have been redeemed from Egypt, but you're luckier now living today because you will be redeemed, right? So you're giving it very strongly, the message. Yeah, give them strongly the message to the Jews that you know. Hey, it's Passover. What do you mean you're not going to a Seder? What do you mean you're not? You gotta put away your bread and put away all your leavened stuff, and you gotta have matzah, and you gotta do the Jewish thing. You tell them. Absolutely. That's a big mitzvah. Huge. Okay. There's a lot of stuff over here. Then we go through here's the 10 plagues. Here we're coming closer to the end of the Haggadah. Rabbi Gamliel used to say, whoever does not discuss the following three things on Passover has not fulfilled his duty, namely Passover, meaning the Passover sacrifice, Matzah, the unleavened bread, and Maror, the bitter herbs. Passover, the Passover lamb that our fathers ate during the time of the Beis Hamikdash of the Holy Temple. For what reason did they do so? Because the omnipresent passed over our fathers' houses in Egypt, and as it is said, you shall say it is a Passover offering to the Lord, because he passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt when he struck the Egyptians with the plague, and he saved our houses, and the people bowed and prostrated themselves. So this is important. Three things that you must say that evening, because we have to remember, again, Passover sacrifice, matzah, and the bitter herbs. Matzah that we eat for what reason? Because the dough that our fathers did not have time to become leavened before the King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He, revealed Himself to them, and He redeemed them, as it says in the verse. Take the maror in your hand and you say, this maror that we eat is for a reason, because the Egyptians embittered our fathers' lives in Egypt, as it is said, they made their lives bitter with hard service of mortar, with bricks, and with all manner of service in the field. All of their service that was made them serve with vigor. And we say in every generation, a person is obligated to regard himself as is. He has come out of Egypt. You shall tell your children on that day, it is because of this the Lord did for me when I went out of Egypt. Yes, we're constantly going out of Egypt, and that brings us to the idea that we mentioned earlier, that even though we went out of Egypt, we're still in exile. But Egypt, that we are to be enslaved by any other nation, will never happen again. We can be enslaved by our own, ruler of the animal soul. That can enslave us. So in that respect, we're still in exile, and we're still seeking to get out of Egypt. And with every time we do a mitzvah, we do something that Hashem wants us to do, we are one step more going out of exile, out of our self-imprisonment, and being redeemed. Then we drink the second cup of wine, which we poured earlier or for the Haggadah, and then we go and wash our hands for bread. We make the hamotzi on the 2.5 matzahs. Then we drop the middle one, and then we make the blessing to eat matzah. And then we take the middle matzah and a small piece of the top matzah, and then we recline and eat the matzah. I should eat it within 6 minutes if you can. I chew and chew and chew and chew and chew. I don't swallow until I have a full mouth, because the 6 minutes starts when you swallow. Every mitzvah has to be done with space and time. Time is the 6 minutes. Space is the amount. That's the amount to eat. Like a third of a matzah, of a shmura matzah, something like a third to a half of a matzah, depending on the size, the weight of it. Make sure you have shmura matzah for the mitzvah. Very important. Very, very important to have shmura matzah. Then you eat the bitter herbs. You don't recline. Then you eat the what's called the Hillel sandwich. Or it's not named after the Earl of Sandwich, but it's really the Hillel is the one who made the concept of sandwich, because you take 2 pieces of matzah, and in between you have some bitter herbs. The bitter herbs we use is romaine lettuce, and we put a little bit of chrein, fresh chrein, horseradish, like the root, not from the jar, from the root. Then you have a festive meal. Then you eat the afikomen. It's called safun, that which was hidden earlier. Then we do grace after meals, benching, beirach, and after we bench, then we say psalms, hallel, and then Nirtza, we have been accepted. Conclusion. Afterwards, Shana Bab Yerushalayim. Next, you're in Jerusalem. In Chabad, we have a custom that the cup of Eliyahu, Elijah the prophet, that we pour the 5th cup, we pour it back into the bottle, because it's, Elijah did come and drink a little bit. You always see, always some movement there. Always some movement on that cup. So our custom is from the Alter Rebbe that we pour back the wine, because it wasn't, you drink from that wine, you pour it back into the wine canister, and we sing Keliata at that time. Keliata beyoideko elaika yarememeka Keliata beyoideko, and this is about 2 a.m. By me, at least. Others, it's later. I end early. 2 a.m. Amazing experience. People walk out on a cloud. It's beautiful. So I want to wish everybody a Kasher Freilich Pesach, a wonderful experience. I hope that what we share tonight, you will be able to share with your family, even if it's just the Tamsis, right? One is wise, one is wicked. What? Because each one has the oneness of God in them. Share whatever you learned and inspire, especially the younger generation, that they should see how beautiful it is and wonderful it is to celebrate. And don't forget all of the things that you need to prepare. Sell your chametz, do the bedika, and everything else. Wishing everybody a beautiful holiday. And we'll see you tomorrow by Tanya.
Thank you.
God bless you all.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Blessings, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Take care.